Danish Gambit. The Danish Gambit begins with the normal e4, then the opponent plays e5, thinking you are going to play the normal knight f3. However, you say F you and play d4. Now black, thinking you're an idiot, takes the pawn, and you offer another pawn. Now black happily grabs the pawn, and now he expects you to take the pawn. But you still don't and simply develop the bishop. Now black, questioning your sanity, takes the pawn. However, this was all in your plan, as now you finally recapture, and you reveal the monster bishops. Even though you are down 2 pawns, the position is still equal by Stockfish, and you have lots of attacking possibilities here. Also, if you are not confident with your attacking skills, you might take the pawn here with the knight, as you only lose 1 pawn in this variation. ICBM Gambit. In this gambit, you will be launching the nuke to the opponent's queen. To do that, go e4 and they play the Scandinavian defense, and you quickly play knight f3. You have to play it quick to make them think you mouse slipped. Now they take the pawn, and you attack the pawn. They defend with the knight, and you give them another pawn. They take, and you take back with the bishop. Now, the knight looks pretty annoying, it's just they're kind of pressuring the pawn, so black plays a 6. However, this is where it begins. You sacrifice the knight. You fork the pieces, so black has to take, and then you sacrifice the bishop. Now black has no other option but to take, and then you launch it. However, be careful here. If they play this move, then don't capture the free piece, as then you will get your queen taken. Fried liver attack. The fried liver attack begins with e4, then e5, and then you play the normal knight f3. Now black is certain this is going to be a nice chill game, so they play knight c6, then you play bishop c4, the Italian opening. Now black plays the knight move, which is a grave mistake, as now you attack the weak pawn with your knight. Now they play d5 to block the threat, which you take the pawn. Now a mistake would be to take the pawn back, as you can actually sacrifice the knight. Then you fork the knight and king. Let's say he is an idiot and plays this move. Now you can win in a few moves by taking the knight, then white takes back, and then checkmating with the bishop on move 8. Let's say he's not an idiot and plays king here, defending his knight. So you play knight c3, continuing to add pressure to the piece. Now black defends with knight b4, and you simply just castle. Now the goal for the game is to destabilize the pawn with moves like d4, and then exploit the weak king in the center. England Gambit. Now there are a couple of ways you can approach this gambit. First, let's go over the most famous one. So white starts with d4, and you play this very strange move e5, which appears to simply blunder a pawn. So white takes the bait, and you attack the pawn. The knight defends, and you add pressure with the queen. Now white clings to the pawn with the bishop, then you triple fork white with this move, and if white is dumb, he could blunder the bishop. However, let's say he pulls it back, and then you take the pawn. Now white attacks the queen with the bishop. A logical move, right? Well, it's actually a blunder since you pin the bishop to the king. The queen defends, and you take, he takes, and then you checkmate the king on move 8. However, let's say you are above the elo of 1300, so this trap probably won't work. You can still use the England Gambit. You could try the Solers Gambit. After white takes, then you offer the f6 pawn, which white takes, and you get a lead in development and an open f-file for the rook. You could play this variation where you offer the d-pawn so that you get superior development and an open file. Blackburn Schilling Gambit. Now this is a more checkmatey type of gambit, so if you are above the elo of 1200, maybe don't use it. Anyways, it begins with e4, e5, and then knight f3, knight f6, then the Italian game. And now you attack the knight with the knight. Now white, thinking you hung a pawn, takes the free pawn, which also threatens to fork. You simply go queen g5, and white, thinking you have blundered a fork, happily takes the pawn, forking your queen and rook. However, then you take the pawn with the queen, attacking their rook. They move it away, and then you capture the middle pawn. Now they defend with the bishop, still 100% convinced they are fine. However, you play knight here, which is a checkmate. Alban counter gambit trap. So we are not looking at the Alban counter gambit opening itself, as that is a lot more complex. So we are only looking at one trap variation. So they play d4, and you play d5, and they play the Queen's Gambit opening. Now, instead of taking or defending, which takes the game into white's hands, you play e5, completely taking white out of opening knowledge. Now they take the e-pawn, and you simply push the pawn. Now they play a mistake, which is e3, which allows your bishop to check. They block, and you take the pawn. Now, a big blunder most people do here is actually taking the bishop, which just looks like a free piece. However, now you take the f-pawn with check. If they take the pawn, you can take their queen, so they don't take. And then you promote the pawn, not to a queen, but to a knight. They move back, and you give a nice queen check. Remember, if they block, you fork him. So black moves away, and you simply develop in castle queenside, and you are just completely winning. Traxler counterattack. The Traxler starts with e4, e5, then they play knight f3, and you play the standard knight c6. Now they play the Italian game, and you simply develop your knight. Now they play the fried liver attack, an opening we looked at before. But here, instead of playing the standard d5, you play bishop c5. Now white happily takes the pawn, forking your queen and rook. You now sacrifice the bishop. Now from here, you are going to actually have to learn the opening, since white could play from here a lot of ways. Just remember to play knight takes and then the useful move, queen h4. And then you just absolutely hammer the king. And in many lines, you just checkmate in the opening. Halloween Gambit. The Halloween Gambit begins with e4, e5, then you play knight f3, they play knight c6, then you play knight c3, and they play the knight to f6. You have entered the opening called the Four Knights game. Now here you decide to spice it up by sacrificing the knight. Now black, thinking you're a
stupid man,
takes it without hesitation, and you now strike in the center. Now the correct move is actually knight g6, but more often than not, they play this inaccuracy being knight c6. Now you push the pawn attacking the knight moves, then you keep the fire blazing by pushing the f-pawn. The knight moves, and then you continue the rampage. Now the knight is in an awful position in the starting square, so you continue the attack. They take, you take, and black tries to fork you. Now you go here with the knight, attempting a fork. The king has to move, and you attack the pawn. Now they play a huge blunder, which is pushing the pawn, and you destroy them with bishop check, knight check, and in a few moves, you win the queen. Now let's say they play knight g6 instead. You push, the knight goes to the awful square, and you can simply develop and look for useful moves like h4 or queen f3. Well, that was all for this video. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button as it really helps me out. And as always, thanks for watching.